What we're going to look at today is solving equations with the operations of multiplication or division. Remembering that the inverse of to multiply is to divide, the inverse of division is multiplication. So whenever we want to isolate a variable, we'll identify whether that variable is being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided by a number. Whatever the operation is, once we identify it, we want to do the inverse operation to isolate the variable. And remember, of course, whatever we do to one side of an equal sign, we want to do to both sides of the equal sign. So let's take a look at an example. Let's take the example 10x equals 50. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a vertical line through the equal sign so that I can focus on where the variable is. And I can find that the variable is on the left side of the equal sign. So then I look and say 10x. What does that mean? It means 10 times x. So it's being multiplied, so I need to do the inverse to isolate it, and that means I need to divide both sides. What am I going to divide the x by? Well, what is the x being multiplied by? So quick and easy, the 10 is the factor being multiplied by the x. What I do to the left, I do to the right. And notice I'm using a fraction bar to divide. That's the way we want to process this. I'm going to divide both the left and the right side by the coefficient of the x. So what I do to the left, I do to the right. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 1 times x is x. That's why they can cancel. That leaves me with an x on the left equal to 50 divided by 10 is 5. So my solution to the original equation 10x equals 50 is that x equals 5. What's the next step? The next step always is going to be to check. Where do we check? We check back in the original equation. What am I going to check? I'm going to check, does x equal 5? So I'm going to take that solution that I found. I'm going to rewrite the original. No change to the original. I'm going to write it one more time, replacing the variable with the empty parenthesis. So they read the same thing. 10 times some number equals 50. What is that some number? I think it's 5. Okay, we're not sure of that until we finish our check, but that's what we think. On the left side of the equal sign, it says 10 times 5. 10 times 5 is 50 equals 50. I get the same number on the left and the right, so I say that that checks. And I'm finished now with example number 1. Let's take a look at an example where we start with division. Okay, so I'm going to call this example 1. I'm going to move down to example 2. In this example, I have x divided by 2 equals 9. Some number, when I split it into 2, half of that is going to be 9. Okay, so think to yourself, is that number going to be larger than 9 or smaller than 9? Well, if I get 9 as a result when I divide it into 2 piles, it must be a larger number to start with. Just kind of keep that in the back of your brain. Okay, I've got a division problem, and I know that I'm going to undo division with multiplication. So here's a quick and easy format for you. Whenever you have a variable involved in a fraction, think parentheses. I need to throw parentheses on both sides of the equal sign. What am I going to put in those parentheses? Well, I'm going to undo the division. So what is x being divided by? X is being divided by 2, so I need to multiply. And what I do to the left, I do to the right. I am multiplying both sides by 2. A whole number divided by itself is going to be 1. 2 over 2 is 1. 1 times x is x. So that leaves me on the left side with just my single variable, which is what I wanted. And on the right side, I have 9 times 2, I have 18. Does that make sense? That 18 divided in half, half of that is going to be 9? Sure it does. So my solution to x divided by 2 equals 9 is that x equals 18. How do I know? Because I'm going to check. What am I going to check? I'm going to check the value I found for x. And then I'm going to rewrite the original equation as it was given, no change. X over 2 equals 9. I'm going to write it a second time, replacing the variable with the empty parentheses. Then I'm going to insert the value that I found and see, does that work? Is it true that 18 divided by 2 equals 9? 18 divided by 2 is 9, equals 9, so it checks. Okay, third example. My third example is going to look a lot like the second example, but be careful. All right, we're going to do the same idea. We're going to have a variable and a fraction involved together. I'm going to say that 2/5 of x equals 8. Now remember up here I said if you have a fraction involved with a variable, then you want to put empty parentheses on both sides. I have a fraction and a variable on the left side of that equal sign. I'm putting empty parentheses right there. Watch how easy this is if you think this through. I need to undo the multiplication of x by 2/5, which means I need to divide by 2/5. Do you remember when we talked about division, we said you keep the first number, then you flip the fraction and you change from division to multiplication? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to undo this multiplication by dividing by its reciprocal. So I'm going to take and I'm going to multiply, I'm sorry, we're dividing by the same number, so we're multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're going to take 2/5, turn it over, and make it 5/2. What I do on the left, I do on the right. See where those empty parentheses come in so handy, because I just need to put the number in there. Think of how this works. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 1 times x is x. They cancel. X equals. Now I have a little arithmetic to over here. Remember, you're allowed to put any integer over 1 without changing its value. 8 times 5 is 40. 1 times 2 is 2. So my x is equal to 40 divided by 2, or 20. This is where the idea that fractions are our friends really comes in handy. It's just quick and easy. There's nothing to really think about because it works every time. You just need to be careful. Okay, so what happens next? Of course, I check. So when I check, I'm going to check that the answer x equals 20 makes sense. So I'm going to write my original, no change to the original. 2/5 of some number is equal to 8. Well, 2/5 is a little less than half. What would half of 20 be? 10, right? So a little less than half, a little less than 10 is 8. That makes sense. So let's put it in. 2/5 of some number equals 8. You notice I did not write the number in, I put my empty parentheses there. The sum number that I'm going to put in there is 20. And since I've got a whole number times a fraction, I'm just going to put 20 over 1. Does that work? 2 times 20 is 40. 1 times 5 is 5. Does that equal 8? I don't know yet, I'm not finished. 40 divided by 5 is 8, equals 8. Check. And that's how we solve single-step equations using multiplication or division.